How you doing? 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 My strawberry. I hope you had a good day, and a good week. So, I'm gonna be reading some Reddit horror short stories, and while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to be cutting some of my shirts to be like this one. I didn't cut this one, I got it like this, but I've been wanting to recreate it so I can wear some shirts that I don't usually wear because I really like the off the shoulder. But this shirt has like these little fuzzies. You can't see them, but they get stuck all over it, and the material just drives me crazy. So I want to recreate this with shirts that have a material that I prefer much better. Because I'm kind of gonna stop wearing this shirt. Rant aside, that's the vibe. And yeah, we're gonna see how I feel about these. I think I've read some stories from r/nosleep, but I'm thinking of reading some from just r/scary stories, and seeing that one as well. Let's see. I could do either. I want to look at the top posts for, maybe the past month or so. Yeah, I want to look at both Reddits, actually. I want to look at r/nosleep and r/horror stories. And we'll just look at the top posts from the past month and see how we feel about them. This first one is by Orange PLR, and it's titled, "Every night a different person walks down the street and screams for help. We aren't allowed to help them." Looking back, I feel dumb, completely stupid actually. I should have known that apartment was far too cheap to be right even for a studio. I should have known there had to be a catch. The day I moved in was a complete blur. I insisted that no one help me, not wanting to prove any of my family members' suspicions about my character. By late afternoon, all my muscles ached terribly and my head throbbed. I fell back on my bare mattress, staring up at the ceiling fan with glazed over eyes. I pulled the damp strands of hair from my sweaty forehead, wincing in disgust. Someone knocked on my door, causing me to jump. I cursed under my breath, pushing myself up on my elbows. 2 girls were peeking around my door frame. Foolishly, I'd left it wide open, forgetting the old college rule, only leave your door open if you want to make new friends, and I was not in the mood to make new friends. One of them, an Asian girl with choppy black hair, was grinning at me. The other stood a little further back, fingering a box of Marlboro Reds. "Hey," she said, nodding at me. Her voice was smooth and raspy at the same time. "Did you just move in?" I laid back down, rubbing my face with both hands, choosing not to bother with manners. "Yeah, about 5 seconds ago." "Cool." The girls walked in, evidently ignoring my very clear body language. The girl with the black hair ran her fingers along the edge of my desk and then picked up a little ceramic duck from my unpacked box of trinkets. "Grandma," I explained, feeling strangely defensive. "Cute," she replied, holding it up to her face. "Has anyone told you yet?" the other girl asked abruptly, looking around my apartment. She had tucked the cigarettes into the back pocket of her jeans and was now tugging at her long red braids. "Jesus, Gianna, give her a second." "Well, she needs to know." "Yeah, but we haven't even asked her name." I blinked at the 2 strangers incredulously. I hadn't even had time to put toilet paper in my bathroom. And here they were, touching my things and talking about me like I wasn't there. I just wanted to take a nap, honestly. So real. I blinked at the 2 strangers. Sorry, I'm trying to reread that. "My name's Arden," I said. The girl with the red braids, Gianna, sat down next to me on the bed. "Did they tell you?" "Tell me what?" "Of course they didn't. The rules." I blinked again, my face blank. I didn't know what about any rules besides the typical renting ones. I had signed the lease, after at best skimming over it. The landlady was a skinny woman who smelled of ashes, and I was fairly certain she had never developed the facial muscles necessary for smiling. I wasn't about to ask her any follow-up questions, especially when the rent was so cheap. The other girl laughed nervously. Where did you move here from? I ignored her. What rules? Gianna got a strange, wicked sort of smile on her face, bouncing a little on my mattress. The other girl sighed loudly. Something happens here every night, she began, pulling out my rickety office chair and sitting down. Something weird. Like what? I sat up, frowning at her. Finally, my interest was piqued. Someone walks down the street, Gianna said. Her voice reminded me of a camp counselor telling a scary story about the bonfire. That one right down there, she pointed out my window. It's someone different each night. They scream for help for about an hour, but we aren't supposed to help them. I just stared at her. I felt a small chill run up my spine. I didn't know what to make of all this. It happens at a different time every night, the other one says softly. We never know when it's coming. Why? She shrugged almost sadly. We don't know why. I scoffed, leaning my elbows against my knees. I don't believe you. The girl shrugged. You don't have to. You'll see for yourself. The look in her eyes made me want to believe her. She seemed sincere, but I couldn't even begin to fathom what they were saying being true. It was too strange, too outlandish. I knew this wouldn't be the nicest neighborhood, but it couldn't be that bad. It had to be a prank. They had to be hazing me or something. We'll come back later, Gianna said matter-of-factly. We'll show you. Before I could protest, she grabbed the other girl by the wrist, and they were gone. I followed them to the door, watching them march down the hall, talking to each other in hushed voices. I closed my door behind them. That night, as promised, they came back. They came dragging along two boys. One was somewhat muscular, wearing a tight black t-shirt and baggy jeans, and my eyes were instantly drawn to a silver heart-shaped locket around his neck. He smiled at me and introduced himself as Will when we walked in. The other boy was smaller, but chubbier and nervous-looking, with a buzz cut and ill-fitting cargo shorts. His name, I was told, was Matteo. The girl named Gianna came in carrying a bottle of wine and that same slightly crumpled box of cigarettes. The other one, the girl I still don't know the name of, was the only one who even looked somewhat apologetic. They all sat down on my dusty floor next to the window and motioned for me to join them. I sat between Will and the nameless girl, unsure whether I should continue feeling violated or if I should just give in to my strange, pushy neighbors. Do you all live in this building? I asked, hesitantly accepting the wine when it was passed to me. Yeah, Will answered with a grin. It seemed half-hearted. The building is where all the young people live in. This building. It's where they put us, Gianna cut in, lighting a cigarette. Didn't even occur to me to tell her not to smoke inside. We've all been sorted out. Forgive her, she's a bit of a conspiracy theorist. It's not a theory, she snapped, glaring at him. Look at the other ones, next door, the middle-agers, people with kids but no grandkids. Across the street, old people, not a single 20-something in that entire building. May, tell them. So her name was May. I looked over, admiring her smoky eye makeup and how she tied her hair up, long strands poking out like exploding fireworks. Stop it, May muttered, reaching for the wine bottle. You'll scare her. I'm not scared. She just shrugged at me as if she didn't believe me. We passed the bottle around and then around again. I listened to them bicker and laugh. It was clear they'd all been friends for a while, and it felt a little bit like I was intruding even though they were in my apartment. Will asked me if I had gone to college, and I told him I did, but dropped out. They all nodded sympathetically, which made me feel stupid. By night, I was a little bit buzzed, and by midnight, and my guard was beginning to fall. I had to admit it felt good to have friends. I had already mentally resigned myself to a life of solitude, at least for a while, but it seemed that might not actually have to be my fate. I laughed at Matteo and Gianna's drunken argument, passing a cigarette back and forth with May, blowing the smoke out of my open window. I'd almost completely forgot why they were all over when it happened. All at once, a blaring alarm came from each of our phones like an Amber Alert. I could hear the sound echo throughout the neighborhood like an entire chorus of 100 phones going off, not just ours. I nearly leapt out of my skin. Not even Gianna laughed. All of them went quiet and they looked at me as I took out my phone, frowning at the screen. Do not interfere. It's coming, Will whispered. He changed, his eyes almost glassy and his voice soft and shaky. Matteo squeezed his shoulder. I looked at May. Her eyebrows were cinched together in concern, and she was stubbing out our cigarette against the windowsill, shrinking away. There it was again, that chill. It crept up my back, spreading along my scalp and making me shiver. Something felt deeply, deeply wrong. The others were quiet now, staring silently at the window I was sitting up against. The air felt somehow warmer, like it was buzzing with something. Or maybe I was just sweating. We sat there unmoving for what felt like half an hour. Right as I was getting tempted to ask what was going on, I heard it. It was far away and faint, but I still heard it. A cry. It continued as it got gradually closer, louder, more desperate. Help, please, my God, someone help me. Slowly I leaned out the window. I had to see it with my eyes. I had to confirm that there was actually someone out there like they said there would be. My new apartment was on the 4th floor, so it was hard to see who was down on the street without squinting. In the flickering streetlights, I could make out the outline of an elderly man. He was hunched over, wandering aimlessly from door to door, wearing only what looked like a hospital gown to cover his pale, broken body. Behind him trailed a path of dripping blood, although I couldn't see where it was coming from. "Please, I'm hurt." I looked back at the others, my mouth hanging open. "What is this?" I demanded loudly. "What the hell is this?" May touched my arm, trying to calm me down. I pulled away from her. "Arden, please. We have to help him. Why can't we help him? He's just an old man." "We can't help him. Trust me." I ignored her, leaning farther out the window, prepared to call out to him. But before I could open my mouth, I froze. The man down there was still now, facing our building. His head was tilted upwards, and I couldn't see his eyes, but I knew he was looking right at me. I immediately felt cold, like I was plummeting in ice water. "Help me," he whispered into the silent night air, his voice barely audible. Then he began to scream. The scream wasn't human, or at least not human I had ever met. It was desperate, agonized. It made my stomach turn and my eyes prick with tears. I couldn't look away. The scream wasn't human. Sorry. I keep rereading paragraphs. The blood was coming from his arms, or I should say his lack of arms. Where his arms should have been, there was only bloody, mangled stumps. They looked fresh. He didn't move other than a shaky sway, and his eyes didn't leave me. His shriek slowly molded into words that I could just barely understand. "Please, please, please, please." May yanked me backwards away from the window. I landed on my ass and yelped in pain and horror. "What is that thing?" I whispered. I didn't mean to whisper, but that was all that came out. "We don't know," May replied, her eyes trained on Will, who was crying now. Mateo held on to him like he might topple over. "We just know to follow the rules." "What happens if you don't follow the rules?" I asked, and immediately regretted it. Will sobbed softly. Outside, the old man wailed. Gianna reached over and pulled the window shut, but it somehow did nothing to muffle the blood-curdling sound. "Do you want to tell her, or should I?" Mateo asked Will. Will just shook his head. He was clutching his locket, now turning the little heart over between his fingers. Mateo sighed and turned towards me. "A couple months ago, one of them got to Will's girl." "Shannon," Gianna butted in. "Her name was Shannon." Sorry. Her name is Shannon." I swallowed, but whatever I did, nothing would force down the lump in my throat. "What happened?" Mateo shook his head. "We don't know. We were all together when the screaming started. Usually we just ignore it, No use in dwelling on it. But that night, we think she saw something different. She started insisting she had to help, and she ran outside. We couldn't stop her." He paused, glancing over at Will. He was silent and still. The screaming outside had begun to pass, getting softer as it continued further down the street. "Then what?" He shrugged. "Nothing. She was just gone." I pressed my lips together, trying to process all of this. I really had believed they were messing with me, but I had seen it. I had witnessed it firsthand, and it terrified me. "Why doesn't anyone leave?" He shrugged for a second time. "Can't afford it. Our people just don't care. Some people have left, but we all signed an NDA with the lease, so nobody ever knows." I frowned, thinking back to signing the paperwork, trying to remember. I could vaguely picture what he was talking about. I just assumed it was more legal jargon that I would never understand. Had I seriously signed a non-disclosure agreement without even noticing? After that, I told them I wanted to go to bed. I needed time to process all of this. They understood, and each one of them said goodbye before leaving me alone. As I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, for some strange reason I thought of May's face when we had realized it was happening. As she put out the cigarette and backed away from the window. Eventually, I was able to drift off to sleep. The next few weeks were difficult. I spent more and more time with my new neighbors. I came to find they were right. I didn't think there was a single person older than 30 in our entire building, but I all saw them all the time leaving the one next door. Settling in was difficult. The others seemed so used to it. They cared, of course. It scared them, especially Will, but you could tell they had been here a while by the way they sighed, closing the blinds, and focusing harder on whatever they were doing. Eventually, I began to mimic them. It helped a little bit to pretend it was normal, as strange as that sounds. Moving out wasn't really an option for me anyways. I was a college dropout, and I hadn't found a job yet. I was still just getting by on what I managed to save up. Every night, it was someone different. Some were more human, some seemed less. Some were drenched in blood, their clothes ripped and strange, but some looked fairly normal. The worst were the children. They would run like injured chickens, screeching and banging on doors, begging for help. Sometimes they would try different things, say different things, like "they're coming," like "I don't want to die," or even "I'm sorry." There were a lot of children. One night, while I was half awake, an alarm went off. It wasn't like the one in our phones. It was blaring, only somewhat muffled by my window. My apartment glowing a flashing red from outside. I didn't even look. I was too scared of what I might see. I just covered my head with a pillow and tried to fall back asleep. I came to learn all of the theories, especially from Gianna. She thought we had all been chosen and predetermined to live here, all for some sick little government game. She thought maybe there were people betting on the different buildings, putting down money on who would interfere the least. See that? She said to me one day in the camera, returning from a coffee run. Cameras everywhere. I didn't know if I believed her. I spent time with May mostly. We smoked on the front steps and people watched. It was strange to see what at night was such a sinister and gruesome neighborhood, during the day bright and lively. She didn't talk much about the rules, so I didn't either. We didn't talk all that much in general, I found, just enjoying each other's company. Right when I began to feel comfortable was when it happened. It started with a birthday cake. This is a long story. I'm really enjoying it, though. I'm going to take a little break and just kind of discuss and cut my shirt a little bit before we finish, because it's still going. I do really like the material of this shirt, so I don't want to fuck this up. But it's just too plain, because it's just this pattern for me to wear it on its own. And I'll definitely cut it off on this side, because I like the design. I'm actually sad it goes up so far. It almost looks like it was a mistake how far up they printed it. Like, it looks crooked. I don't know. Maybe it was super purposeful to do that, but I also wish I had sharper scissors, but I don't know. I don't know where my black hair scissors that I almost always use. They just kind of disappeared, because they're not at my dorm either, so I probably just put them somewhere and then completely forgot. So I'm just gonna use these random scissors that I have. But yeah, that is kind of whack. Place your bets now of what you think, if it's supernatural or if it's whatchamacallit, actually a government experiment. I'm thinking those can't be real. It has to be some kind of demon or something. Some kind of possession. Or some kind of spirit that just takes on the form of humans, because it thinks that'll be what gets people to help it. But and then the landlords and stuff are just aware. I definitely could see how it could be a social experiment, though. You know what I mean? The landlords and something are in on it, because obviously they know. And also that whole part about people being separated by age. The 20-somethings in one building, the middle-aged in another, the old people in another. Also, I think, let me check. I could have sworn she said something, the middle-aged people didn't have kids. I don't think there are any kids that live in this area as well. Let's see. Middle-aged people with kids but no grandkids. Oh, never mind. Across the street. Yeah, I don't know if any kids live in this building or not. I think they're just middle-aged as people who are old enough to have kids but not have grandkids yet. Mostly, obviously. Some people have kids really fucking young, and they have grandkids really fucking young too. Which is, yeah. So who knows? It's so whack though. Honestly, I always have headphones in when I sleep because I'm listening to ASMR and stuff, so I probably wouldn't notice. I mean, I don't know. I do like to sleep with my window open though for fresh air, and I don't like to be super high up because stairs, because even just taking the elevator makes me nervous. But I don't like to be on first floor because I don't want my window to be on first floor. So I'm definitely like a second floor, third floor girly. So I feel like I'd still be kind of close. So if I had my window open, I think I probably would be really fucking annoyed hearing someone scream outside my window every night. Yeah. I probably would not be a very big fan of that happening to me. Damn, this one's so difficult to cut. If I had like sharp scissors, this would be so much easier. But instead, I feel like I'm just hacking away at it. That's so crazy. I just realized, yeah, the seams are not fucking lined up on this shit at all. But I already know that one's gonna go down pretty far. I cut farther than I meant for it to, though. Crap. That's fine. I want to cut as little of this design off as possible. Doop, 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 doop. But yeah, I wonder. I was really thinking of something supernatural, but now I'm like, I feel like it's being set up to be like I don't know, something like that a lot of people are in on kind of shit, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like it's a demonic possessing people. Like, it feels like it's this big conspiracy vibe. Just because that one character, you know. Which I know, like, that could just be like, oh, that could just be what that one character thinks. It's not necessarily. But I feel like why else would you mention that detail if it's not something like that, you know? So let's see. Also, it's so cute. I actually like the Star Wars writing and the same thing. I'm just gonna do a straight cut in the back. I'm not gonna go that far down, so the stars tag will still be there as well. But yeah, let's finish with the story. It still keeps going. I'm probably gonna just be able to read this one story from No Sleep and then have to read one story from, or should I just read stories from No Sleep and make a separate video for short stories? I might do that. Just so, you know, they kind of have dedicated videos to the subreddits. I'm probably gonna do that. Alright. Happy birthday. As May walked through the door, Mateo blew into his plastic party horn. The paper inflated, smacking Will in the side of the head. May's hand flew to her heart. Jesus Christ, you fuckers know I hate surprises. Gianna laughed and walked over to her. In her hand she held a chocolate cake, haphazardly adorned with sprinkles and bright pink icing that read, "Happy birthday, May," in the center. 24, she set down the cake on the dresser and threw her arm around May's neck. How does it feel? Fucking awful. That's the spirit. Enough of this, Mateo cut in, weaving between them. Let's eat some cake, then let's go. Their tradition, I had learned, was to bar hop for birthdays. They told me there was no curfew here, despite the rules, just a recommended time to be home, which was 10:30 p.m. Usually they said they got home before the alarm or spent the night somewhere else. We all took some cake. The boys took shots in the kitchen to pregame while I watched Gianna fuss over May's hair. Oh shit, is it gonna be like when they come back? They don't make it back before the alarm. Oh no, they get it on their phone in advance though. That's the other thing. The fact that they get the alarm in advance on their phone. Like, how the fuck else would, like, authorities know to be able to, there to be a fucking warning? Because it's not just an app that they downloaded that one of them could have made, like, wherever it started, so they could say ahead of time, like, hey, this thing is about to move. And they're right there where it spawns, so they know. Like, it's definitely like an Amber Alert vibe. Like, it's already fucking put into your phone that this alarm can go off. So obviously it's like the authorities in the area were able to set it off, like to do with Amber Alerts. That's suspicious to me. I was never much of a partier. While at clubs or bars in college, I spent most of the time out back chatting with the smokers. But then again, I was never much of a friend group person either, so maybe the circumstances were changing. I watched them all troop outside to Mateo's car. I stuffed myself in the back, incredibly conscious of how close I was pressed into May. Is this Sapphic? Wait, I love that. My other shoulder was cramped into the car door. Mateo's music cranked up to the maximum volume hurt my ears. And the tiny space was packed with the smell of tobacco and various perfumes as we sped down the freeway toward the city, but it was nice. It was really nice. I found myself laughing with them, and I hooked my arm around May's when she weaseled her hand beneath my elbow. It was actually nice. As predicted, the bars they chose weren't exactly my scene, but as this time, as opposed to college, I could stand it. I took shots, I followed them out for smoke breaks, I even danced under the low purple lights until my feet ached inside my chunky heels, surely riddled with blisters. By the time we got our third bar, I couldn't even feel it anymore. And it was at the third bar that we crammed ourselves into an old photo booth, and Gianna reluctantly offered $5 to the slot, and we laughed red-faced into a tiny camera. After the photo spit out into the compartment, the others slid through the red curtains, but before I could follow, May grabbed my wrist. She held me back, sliding her long blue nails up my wrist. I shivered. You never gave me a birthday present, she whispered, and I could feel her breath on my face. If I was wearing my glasses, they would have been fogging up. Yeah, well, I didn't get to finish my quip before she kissed me. It was nice. And then it wasn't. Hey, Will called out to me, squeezing through a crowd of men wearing tattered leather jackets to get to me. Arden, where's everyone else? I blinked, looking around. I could have sworn they'd been right there a second ago, but now none of them were anywhere to be found. I shrugged. I don't know. Why? What's up? He finally broke free from the swaying mass, and I got a better look at him. He looked worried. His face was flushed, and I could see a few drops of sweat creeping out from his hairline. He took his phone out of his pocket and held it out to me. First I saw his home screen. It was him next to a girl with strawberry blonde hair, both clutching beer bottles and grinning widely at the camera. Then I looked where he actually wanted me to. The time, 1:47 a.m. It's getting late. Can we find the others and get going? I understood then. He was worried. It was past 1 a.m. yet, and no alarm. It was later than usual. The bar would start closing soon. He wanted to get back before it happened. Will and I weaved through the crowd. I was pretty buzzed, and I realized I was having a hard time moving my feet right, which made me embarrassed. I hadn't even had that much to drink. Was I that much of a lightweight? Oh, shit. They're not gonna get back at that shit. Just sleep somewhere else at that point. Like, it's almost 2 a.m. Honestly, stay in the car, go to, like, a park in a different fucking neighborhood, somewhere fucking else, and just stay out until, like, 3, 4, 5 a.m. until the alarm on your... I'm assuming the alarm would still go off even if you're out of range. Like, I'm sure they know. Like, honestly, just stay out till fucking 10 a.m. I don't know. And if you're tired, just sleep in your car. You guys are chilling, you're hanging out, just make it an all-nighter. Don't go back. I know I'm like kind of... Well, they're already gonna drunk drive back. Like, be so for real. I don't think they mentioned someone being a designated driver, so you may as well just go somewhere else. Go anywhere else. Take a fucking break. Be gone for the night. Oh, this is gonna be bad. Ooh. Oh, good. Also, sapphic kiss. Sorry, I completely passed over that. Arden and May did. I love it when the main character is sapphic and not just one of the side characters. We found them outside chain smoking. Will explained the situation while I swayed. The drive back was strangely tense. Mateo's music was turned down and there wasn't any joking or boisterous gossiping like there had been on the way out. We all felt it. It didn't need to be said. Something was off. Will drove fast, almost reckless. In the dark, May took my hand. Just as he was careening around the last corner, we could just make out the shape of our apartment building down the street. It happened. All of our phones went off at once. Gianna let out a small shriek from the other side of the back seat. Do not interfere. Not going off just as you get back. I would just fucking leave. Just fucking leave. Mateo turned back towards us, pressing his fingers to his lips. Had this ever happened before? By their reactions, I didn't think so. It was different when it came when I was in my bedroom, when I could just shut the curtains and put my headphones on. I felt so small and helpless then, like I was gazing into the maw of something incomprehensible beyond my understanding. It felt like we were all flies, and this neighborhood right now was the spider's web. Will drove slowly now, maybe 5 miles an hour. We were all still, we were all silent, not even a stray breath cut through the quiet. Underneath the glowing streetlights, I could make out the side of Will's face. He was pale, and if I hadn't seen his knees shifting as he pressed down on the brakes, I could have mistaken him for a mannequin. The car came to a stop. I followed his gaze all the way down the street to the dark horizon, and I saw what he saw. A silhouette. It was far too distant to make out what shape it took, but it was evidently humanoid. It moved in a shaky stumble, limping down the middle of the road in our direction, and in the overwhelming silence I could hear it, far away but still deeply urgent. Help me. Will, Gianna hissed, turn the car around. Will didn't move. He just stared forward as wide as paper. It didn't make any logical sense, but I knew what he knew. It was too late now. There was no use. Help me. Please help. I could tell now that it was a girl from its voice, and as its figure got closer, it was wearing some sort of white nightgown, not unlike the old man's hospital attire from the first night, stained with dark red blood. From here, I couldn't tell if it was fresh or dry. I didn't know why that mattered to me. Maybe, May whispered. Her arm shook against mine. Maybe if we're quiet and we duck down, it won't see us. Deep down, I felt as hopeless as turning around had felt, but it seemed reasonable. I nodded and did as she suggested, crouching behind the passenger seat, my knees throbbing from the strange ankle I'd bet myself into. We all did it except for Will. He didn't move, he still just looked. When he finally spoke, I could barely hear him. It was so weak. Shannon? The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Mateo was one to break the silence. What? Shannon, he repeated, finally turning to look at his friend. That's Shannon. I peered over the seat in front of me. Squinting my eyes, the human-like thing was getting closer, and now I could make out strawberry blonde hair, round face, short legs, the girl from Will's phone lock screen. The girl who had disappeared. Shannon. May gasped next to me. Dude, Mateo said slowly, his words crumbling as soon as he left his mouth. I know what you're thinking, dude. Do not get out of this car. Will didn't even seem like he was with us anymore. He was in shock, I think, looking back. I have to help her, he insisted, right as another sickening cry rang out. Help me, please, someone, it hurts. It was getting far too close to us for comfort, but it still didn't seem to notice the car. Its cries became more and more desperate as they got louder. I have to help her, Will repeated, and a bit of life had returned to his face. Mateo shook his head and grabbed at his sleeve. Will, that is not Shannon. Will glared at him, his eyes shining with tears. I know Shannon, that's her. I know you do, dude, and I know you miss her, but please, please don't do this. The words were getting louder and more distraught, and I felt May press onto my side, trembling like a leaf. Gianna was whimpering, but I couldn't see her from my position. The thing was almost to our car when it stopped. She turned her head left and right, almost like she was sniffing the air. The boys stopped arguing. I felt like my heart would burst out of my chest. I could see Shannon's face now, and I realized why she hadn't seen us. The girl's face was streaked with gore, and it looked like her eyes had been scooped out with a melon spoon. She cried, drool pouring from her slackened mouth, but no tears could come. It happened too quickly, none of us could stop him. Will violently ripped his arm away from Mateo, fumbling for the handle to the car door. Gianna screamed. Mateo tried to slam down on the lock, but he missed, and Will managed to get the door open before he could try again. He stumbled onto the asphalt and hit the ground with a soft crunch. The thing turned her head and began to scream, but instead of charging at Will, she backed away. She held her arms out in front of her like something might attack her, whipping her head around wildly. An alarm went off like the one I had heard the one night, but far more unbearable now that I was in it. The streetlights lining either side of the street switched to a flashing red, and Mateo threw himself into the driver's seat, the tires screeching as he peeled away. Gianna was screaming at him, pleading with him to go back. May was weeping into her hands. I didn't move, I didn't make a sound, I didn't understand. As he sped away, I looked back. I couldn't help it. I saw the flash of some sort of van and the blinding red light pulling around the corner, then nothing. That was a week or two ago. I don't know. I've been having a hard time keeping track of time. None of us have spoken much since that night. We tried the police, of course, but as you could assume, nothing came of it. I think whatever this is far larger than we know. I don't know if it's some kind of experiment or just a sick game, but I'm going to move back into my parents' house next week, despite all their berating, and then figure out what to do from there. I don't know if that was really Shannon that we saw that night, or if it was something else, and I don't know which is worse. All I know is that last night, I heard Will's voice outside my window, crying, pleading for help. I didn't interfere. Oh, that's so bad. And the comments are always so funny. Like, they really play into it. This one says, I hope Gianna and May make it out as well. And she replied, me too. I'm starting to feel bad for abandoning them. I just can't handle it. Someone said, I think it's happening everywhere. If it's an experiment, they widen the net. Just last night, I heard the screams. And she replied, oh God, do you think they're actually people or something else? That's the way people are, like, fully invested. That's so whack. Definitely has experiment, like, vibes. It was also kind of giving, like, Skinwalker vibes. Like, you know, like them being able to take the form of someone that they've, like, killed, eaten, met, you know, and being able to take on their form and use that to catch more prey, essentially, is the vibe. That's so whack, dude. Damn. I knew they were gonna lose someone. That's fucked too, because Will is the one that was like, we need to go. And it's not his fault that they stayed late, and then he's the one who got. That's so fucked. Also, it was nice that she actually got to see a picture of Shannon, so that when the thing appeared and she was able to be like, holy shit, it looks just like the photo, we knew, instead of having to, you know, piece it together. Like, is that actually her? Is he just going crazy? But no, it was actually probably fucking her. The fact that, like, when he tried to go for her, she, like, ran too, which made me think, like, shit, like, that's what makes me think, oh, it's not like a skinwalker or something like that, because it would have ran at him. She would have transformed and grabbed him. No, she ran. Which makes me think, like, are they, like, capturing these people, torturing them, and then, like, releasing them, like, maimed, and then trying to lure more people? Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know, you guys. It's fucking whack, though. Real fucking whack. Swing, swing. But yeah, let's see. It's already been a pretty long video, and all I did was read one. Let me see if I can find a shorter one to read next, or else I might, like, actually read just some of those, like, 2-sentence horror stories to finish it off, just so that this video isn't 5 hours long. Let's see. How long is the other top post? Damn, all these no sleep stories are long as fuck. Oh. Okay. This one. Can you guys help me? My husband is upstairs with another woman. I know how it sounds, let me explain. My relationship with Miles used to be completely perfect. The day after our wedding, he drove us to this secluded cabin on the Pacific Coast Highway. Cabin is what he called it. I would have called it a mansion, a sleek little hideaway overlooking the ocean. The air was damp and cool, and we built a fire to chase away the chill. Outside, the waves crashed onto the rocks below. The cabin was truly the perfect romantic getaway, secluded and scenic. He poured me a glass of red wine, and we sat around the crackling logs late into the night. We had a picture-perfect whirlwind romance. I was working on a set of a new TV show as a wardrobe assistant. He was the charming actor playing a minor role. I worked grueling hours for low pay. He made the big bucks. It was also unexpected when he took an interest in me, but it wasn't like I was unattractive, no. Everyone agreed we made a lovely couple, even my parents, whom he charmed immediately with his down-to-earth sensibilities. Our wedding was the most incredible day. All of my childhood expectations were exceeded. The custom wedding dress, the $10,000 cake, the natural setting with 200 of my closest friends and relatives, the endless blue cloudless sky. My friends all said the pictures would be gorgeous, that we were a perfect couple, that the day was something out of a fairy tale. That was the happiest day of my life. I had everything I had ever wanted. Miles was the whole package, smart, handsome, rich, and he was finally mine. Or so I thought. Little did I know that after the wedding, the happiness would fade. I think he thought I wouldn't notice, wouldn't say anything, wouldn't complain. That is, when I finally noticed he was cheating, running around with other women, which is what he's doing right now. Miles thinks the house is empty, but I'm here. I never leave. I hear them up there, footsteps across the floor, a muted giggle. That would be his new girlfriend, I presume. She was probably wowed by his place like I was, and Miles himself, of course, but there's a sight I'd like to show her that's more impressive than the ocean view. It's me, all chopped up in the downstairs freezer. Jesus. You see, Miles didn't like that I figured out his little secret. He liked it less when I confronted him about it, and when I tried to pack my bags and slip out one evening, he cornered me in the garage. He'd been watching me on the security cameras all along. I hadn't even realized they were there. Miles thought he was done with me. He'd solved his problem, at least temporarily. Except I'm still here. It's hard to haunt when you're all wrapped in plastic, but so far I've successfully scared 2 other women away from this place before anything bad happened to them. Turns out whispering, "Get out," into someone's ear as they lay by the pool is pretty freaky. Freaky enough to make them leave. I want to warn the girl upstairs too. She's not safe because he's not done. I get the feeling I wasn't the first skill. It seemed too natural, too practiced. That knife just slid in too easily for it to be impulse. I think there might be more of us down here. Unfortunately, I only have finite energy left in my ghost form. Speaking, even whispering, takes a lot. Takes all the energy I've left to haunt the computer Miles keeps down here, sliding along the passive Ethernet cables into the wide world of internet where I've come to plead for help. So please, is there anyone out there who could come save her? Someone said, "Oh damn, you should slide down those cables and into the local police department site and submit a confession in his name, along with where to find your body." For real though, like, get his ass arrested, what the fuck? So fucked though, cheating ass bitch, mad that he got caught, and so he decided to kill his pretty wife. He's probably just an entitled fuck. He's rich, so he's like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. I hope her parents fucking kill him too. I would. Her friends, those 200 people who showed up to her wedding should be like, fuck this dude. Kiss me. You're telling me her family didn't notice that she's missing? Like, hello? Is there a missing persons report? Is he just like, I'm a widow? What's the gist with that, huh? Boop, 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 boop. I really need sharper scissors. This is driving me crazy. It's looking cute though. I have to do the straight back. Back's all fucked up. But that'll be the front parts. So I like off the shoulder on this side better too, so I'm flipping it. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a good